YouTube, and welcome back to my channel where we seem to be becoming a lot more pagan based than normal. So if you like that, great. If you don't, sorry. So today is another one of those interesting little topics, or apparently that people find interesting. So as of October 31st, Samhain, Halloween, however you want to say it, I restarted my year in a day training. Now, I have been pagan as of my birthday this year for 20 years. I have been a practicing witch for about the same amount of time, but there were periods where I haven't really been allowed to do anything because I lived with religious family members of a different faith who were not appreciative of me following that path. So I didn't have an altar that I set up. I didn't have, well, I had a portable altar which has since been gifted to another practicing, just starting out witch, and this only came around when I moved into my own place. And if I have to move out of here, that again will depend, but that's a different story. So what is a year a day training? Why have I chosen to take it again? So as through every single person's life, at some point you will question your spirituality, whether or not it's an active question or whether or not it's a I just don't believe and I'm okay with that. You are still going to question what you believe. It happens to everybody. I've gone from being certainly more agnostic based witchcraft into, you know, full-blown paganism when I was called by Loki. That's a different, it's just popped into my head, the whole you don't get called by gods, and I'm like, cool, right, we're gonna have a talk about that, but not today. Today is the year in a day. So the reason that I decided to do this again is I have been falling out of my faith. The last 18 months have been crippling for me with depression and suicidal feelings, thoughts, all sorts of stuff like that. Being on a very long waiting list for help, because I typically don't like to go on the antidepressants, because the last time I did, it went a bit wrong and I don't want to do that again. But it meant that I questioned my spirituality, and even though I had my altar and I tried to practice, it didn't work too well for me. I'm still a bit in that area, but the year in a day training is to try and get me to re-understand my path, my craft, and at least, if not gods, if they're real, my strength in the world. Okay, it's something that I regularly bring up where people are like, oh, I couldn't be a witch because I don't follow gods. You don't need to be a witch and follow a god. You could be a Christian witch. I know it's not typically, it's frowned upon, but you could do it, and I don't accept people who do frown upon it. That's your path, that's your choice. You can be an agnostic witch. You can just call on the elements, you can just call on nature, you can call on the universe as a whole. You don't need to do God following or God worship. I like to call it God bothering because it comes from my LARP days, where I used to be a ritualist and I would God bother. But anyway, you don't need to be a God botherer to be a witch, and you don't need to be a witch to be a God botherer. Sorry, it's my favourite term for pagans. For anyone of religious reasons, really, with gods, it's like, you're a God botherer. If you pray every night, you're a God botherer. Unless you're saying thank you all the time. Even then, like, having someone randomly just stick their head in and go, thank you, and then walk away would probably get annoying eventually. So we're all God botherers in our own right. Whether they take it well or not, that's up to them. So that is why I started my year in a day training. What does that entail? What is a year in a day training? What kind of thing do you decide to do? Okay, and it is up to you. Now, the reason I'm doing year in a day training is I was originally introduced to paganism as Wicca. Now, I have never really fully associated with Wicca or anything like that. I am A lot of people don't like the term eclectic pagan, and it's very frowned upon because a lot of eclectic pagans out there use other paths that are closed to them and say that it's their right because it's eclectic paganism and it's what works for them. I both agree and disagree. For example, I do have, if you've watched my altar tour, I have this little hot foot powder here. That is typically a voodoo or hoodoo magic practice. However, I have gone through a lot of research to do with hot foot powder, and there are similar things in other circles. I just like the term hot foot powder, and because it's so easily found on the internet and it's not behind a you must be initiated, you must be clocked out, I am happy to use this because it works. If I found a video for hot foot powder and it said you have to be initiated or you have to call to the lower specifically, I would not use this. And that's part of the year in a day training, is research. So, a year in a day is basically a Druid, Wicca, Celtic path, a part of the path. And I really like the year in a day, because after a year you can think, oh well, I've done it. And that day just gives you a chance to go, well, did I enjoy it? Did it work for me? A lot of times I find if I set myself a target of, oh, it's a month, by the end of the month, I'm just relieved to have got it over with. Whereas if I say there's a month and a day, that final day is for me to reflect, look back on it, see if it's worked out for me. And if it has, use that, go forward with it. So that's what a year in a day training is. It is basically understanding where you want to go with your path, how you want to go about it. Is this the right thing for you? So that's something people don't realise. You can get into your craft, or you can get into witchcraft or paganism and find that it isn't for you and feel like you have set yourself on this path and you have to finish it. You don't. If it's not for you, then you've spent a year researching it, and okay, fine, it's not for you. You don't have to stick to it. It's the same as if some people do karate and they're like, oh, I have to stick with it, but after a year they're like, no, I'm not getting anywhere, I don't enjoy it, but I need to stick with it. Don't. It gives you a chance to learn and get past that beginner stage, while at the same time actually figuring out what is for you and what isn't. So I, for example, I like crystals. I have a couple of crystals. A lot of them have been gifts. So I've got amethyst. This amethyst point was a gift. This rose quartz crystal was a gift. A lot of my stones were a gift, or in the witch's casket. So I've got my selenite. There are only certain stones that have really interested me. So crystal witchery does not hugely interact with who I am. Neither does herbs. They don't really call to me at the moment. That might change over, I mean, I'm technically 6 months in, but I don't feel like I've learned anything. I'm getting there. I really identify with sigil magic and candle magic, which means I'm more of a fire witch. Candles, which kind of makes sense when low-key. But I wouldn't have relearnt that about myself if I hadn't have taken the time to just go, right, act like I know nothing. So that's what I've had to do. I've had to go back to stage one and say, I am a new practitioner. I am a newbie. I'm an acolyte. I know nothing. I'm an initiate. Know nothing at all, even though I do. And relearn everything. And I have learnt some new things. Like when I first started, we didn't know about hot foot powder. We'd just throw chili powder in your face. No, it's a joke, we wouldn't. I knew a lot about curses and hexing. I never really did it because it's much easier for me to expend the energy to punch you than it is to expend the energy for a spell. And if I'm that angry at you in that second, you know, it would be one of those things of, oh, that makes me sound like I have so many anger management issues. I'm trying to put it across in a way of like, if I would hex you or curse you, you have to have really, really done something to upset me to the point of it is still affecting me years later, or well, not years, days later. There are a couple of people where it is years. I haven't hexed them because that would take too much energy, and it's energy that does not need to be devoted to them. That's another story. I'm getting sidetracked. And so I've started off with my I know nothing. I've made this book of shadows, hasn't been drawn in for ages. It does need to be drawn in. I started my bullet journal as a way of keeping track of it. Not necessarily even my paganism, as just myself in general. Learning where my discipline dips down, learning self-care, understanding what needs to happen, how it needs to happen for me to have the best effect on myself. That's the way this has worked for me. Also, some people might be going, well, finally I'm going to address this. This head covering is also part of it. I have never veiled before. This is my first time veiling, and this is again a part of my year in a day training. The idea, I've always loved the idea, not veiling all the time because I don't want it to be, I like having my hair down. I like doing my, well, I say I like doing my hair up. I like just brushing it and putting it in one thing. I'm worrying about it later, but, hello Growler. I wanted to find a way of marking the full moon. So you can now tell when this was recorded. It was recorded on April's full moon. I hope you're enjoying your quarantine. I'm doing all right for the moment. And for the 3 days of the full moon, so the Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, I will wear this. Tonight is the day of the full moon, so it's Tuesday, so tonight I will set out my moon water. I've got some left over from the December 2019 full moon. I may take some of that and recharge it with tonight's water. I'm a little bit concerned about doing that because the energy at the moment feels quite... Hang on, let me... It's not bad, but it feels weird. Sorry, I was just trying to feel how I felt in right this second, and the word anxious was coming to mind, but it's not bad anxiety. It's just like I'm doing something new and explaining about myself, and I don't quite like that. Yes. So anyway, I hope that was you enjoyed my long rambling talk about the year in a day training. Actually, I was just going to say a point. At the end of the year in a day, I'm going to do a rededication service. Ritual, sorry, not service. So that's going to be interesting. If you do have any other questions or anything like that, please let me know. And I will try and be more succinct and give you more information as time goes on. So thank you very, very much for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe. And if you have, like I've just said, if you have any questions, let me know them down below. Please keep them respectful, I will say, because I do not like it when people go, oh, did you know that you're going to hell? It's like, well, it sounds a lot more fun than going to heaven and getting bored. And life is pain, so. Bye!